My name is Adonia Katungisa. I'm the Director, National Library of Uganda. This evening, I am going to take you through the journey of the National Library of Uganda since it started up to date. As an introductory bit, the National Library of Uganda is a government of Uganda, semi-autonomous body that was established by an Act of Parliament of 2003. This Act of 2003 repealed the Public Libraries Board of 1964 that used to establish and manage public libraries in the country. Because of the Decentralization and the Local Governments Act, and now the National Library Act, now the responsibility of this Public Libraries Board was taken over by the National Library of Uganda. Now the Public Libraries Board used to establish and fully manage these public libraries. Maybe many people may not be aware what a public library is, where public library is one that serves everybody, that serves the general public irrespective of your age, your education, your gender. And we have two types of these libraries. We have what we call the public libraries, those that serve the general public, and they are funded from public funds, from the consolidated funds. Then we also have the second category, which we call the community libraries. Now these also serve the general public, except that the responsibility of establishing and management is by either the individual or the organization or the institution that establishes them. And so that's the distinction. But in terms of service delivery, they serve the same. So the public libraries, like I've said, used to manage. But now with the enactment of the National Library Act of 2003, now this responsibility of establishing this library was thrown to the local government at various levels, be it a district, be it a town council, be it a municipality. And now the National Library of Uganda was now left with the responsibility of providing an overseeing role to these libraries that serve the general public, both the public and also the community libraries. Now, why the National Library? Now, the National Library of Uganda was established with a mandate of collecting, preserving, and disseminating documented heritage. Now, when we talk of heritage, we have different types of heritage. We have the physical heritage. If you talk of like the historical sites, we have heritage that is in document form. So when I say documented heritage, I'm looking at that heritage that is in document form, in a publication form, in other words. As when you talk of the other heritage, like the physical, that's why you talk of the Uganda Museum, that's why you talk of wildlife, because they are looking at these tourist sites. Now for us, the mandate was seeing that that heritage that has been put in document form, whether a book or a newspaper, is collected, preserved, and disseminated to the public, both the present and the future generation. And also to, like I've said, to oversee these public libraries as they are being established, to see that they are established as per government's guidelines and procedure. Now, when it comes to the vision, the National Library of Uganda still was established with a vision, like I've said, of the vision of being an institution of excellence in as far as collection and preservation and dissemination of this documented heritage is concerned, and also in the development of libraries that serve the public. And the mission is like twofold, like I've said in the mandate, to collect, preserve, and disseminate in our nation's heritage. and to also provide that professional guidance in as far as public libraries that serve the public are concerned, which I say the public and the community libraries. And in terms of the objectives or the aims, probably I try to connect this one here like to the functions. Now, when you look at the National Library Act of 2003, the National Library of Uganda was established with about 24 functions. And among these, like what I've said, collecting and preserving the documented heritage, providing professional guidance in the field of library information science, in the field of publishing, because if you are talking about providing library service to the public, then we want to see that the publications, the libraries are established and managed to standard. Now, in terms of standardization, there is what we call international standard number or numbers. So these reading materials, these information materials, if it is a book, we call it ISBN, International Standard Book Number. If it is a serial publication like a journal, a magazine, we call it International Standard Serial Number. If it is a musical information item like a CD, we call it International Standard Music Number. Now, these numbers are assigned to these publications as a way of standardizing them, because like the name suggests, they are international standard numbers. And these numbers now uniquely identify these items internationally. So that in terms of marketing, in terms of acquisition, in terms of identifying your item, this doesn't become an issue. Now, in terms of how do we collect this documented heritage, we have what we call the Legal Depots Act. Now, among the functions of the National Library of Uganda is also to enforce the Legal Depots Act. Now, this act requires any person or any organization that produces an information item or that publishes an item is supposed to legally deposit that item with a depository center. Now, when the National Library Act was being enacted, 3 centers were provided. The National Library of Uganda being one of them. We have the Makerere University main library, Legal Depot Center. Then we also have the Uganda Management Institute, Legal Depot Center. The reason why these were put at that time was, like I said, Makerere is an academic institution, is a university, and therefore who accesses it is clearly defined. And the National Library of Uganda, yes, we are saying it is a public, and therefore everyone can access it. And then Uganda Management Institute used to deal with administrative government records. So that's why those were put there. So in terms of the legal depots, we have those centers. And then also providing technical and professional guidance and support to as far as library establishment and management are concerned. That's another function. Now, we have a website, www.nlu.go.ug. All this information is provided. The public, you the viewers, you can access our internet and be able to read all these functions, because of I may not be able to point out all these. Now, in terms of activities, now the activities that we do are derived from our mandate, from our mission, and from the functions that we are supposed to perform. Now, the activities, some of them, like I've said, disseminating that documented heritage that we have in our possession. We have a reference library where the public can come and access whatever we have in stock. And enforcing the legal depots, how do we enforce it? Now, like I've said, we have the Legal Depots Act that requires, so we always try to sensitize the public on what to do in terms of legal depots. If you are an individual author or a publisher, you are expected to deposit 3 copies of your publication, so that we are able to preserve those for is the access to the public. Even you yourselves, you know, some of these publications, after some time, they become out of print. So you may want to turn to your copy and you don't see it. So that's one of the, and if you are government, if you're a government institution, then we require you to have 10 copies legal deposited. That's the legal deposit. Then in terms of the public library and the community libraries, we do what we call capacity building in terms of training them through continuous professional training, in terms of assisting them with the information materials, books and other information materials, providing guidelines and manuals. If you want to establish a library, we have these manuals that can help you so that you are in a position to know what you are supposed to do. And then we also do an inspection, because we don't stop at that. When you establish a library, it becomes existing and the general public comes to access it. So we, as the National Library of Uganda, as one of our functions, we always, on a regular basis, try to inspect and monitor these libraries to see that they are run as per the guidance that we have provided. Now, achievements. We have been able to enforce the legal deposits, because majority of the publishers, majority of the authors are currently depositing, and therefore this documentary you are talking about, we have it in our position as far back as those old years, particularly like the newspapers, the books, the 1900 Uganda Agreement. These are some of the books that we have, the Master's Seed, all these we have them in our possession. Now, for when the National Library of Uganda was established in 2003, there were 16 public libraries. But as we talk now, we have 48 public libraries. And for the community libraries, because for them they don't have these restrictions, it's just an initiation of an individual and organization, we have more than 100. And even this one here, we have gone ahead because there is an association, the Uganda Community Libraries Association, which is located, which sits in Kawempe Youth Center. And it's the one that tries also to give that guidance to the community libraries before maybe when we come in. So we have been able to facilitate these libraries that are existing. We have been able to at least engage the various local governments at various levels and take them through and guide them and give them those manuals to see that they establish a library. Because the whole aim about this one is that we want to see all Ugandans being able to access this information, particularly like on government programs. Now, challenges. Of course, the challenges are very many, so I am just going to pick on a few. One of the challenges is that being an institution of national importance, would have loved to be in premises that are well built to be able to perform effectively our mandate. However, since the time of the Public Libraries Board, and as I talk now, we are still being housed in rented building, which is located on Buganda Road, near Novik Hospital. That's one of the challenges, and therefore, when we collect this documented heritage, when we are trying to provide this information to the public, we are always limited because of the building that we are in terms of preservation, in terms of storage, and so on. The other challenge that we are having is when it comes to the public libraries. Now, the rate at which the public libraries, like I've said, are being established has continued to be low. And the main challenge to this one here is that, like I said, the mandate to establish and manage these libraries is rested in the respective local governments. However, the local governments have not picked up this one here as provided in the Local Governments Act to see that these libraries are established. They are always looking at the National Library as the only funding. Because we have had what used to be called a library grant, provided by our line ministry, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. And as the number of libraries being established increases, this grant has kept on reducing because the funding, the resource envelope has not increased despite, and because we want the general public to access, we have sort of trying to be redistributing. So like in 2003, some of the libraries like Fort Portal, like Mbale, used to get as far as like 90 million, around 90 million to establish these libraries. But as I talk now, I think the highest is getting like 800,000 per quarter if you multiply by 4. So that is a very big challenge that these libraries, even when it comes to establishing them, local governments have not been able to establish. Secondly, the services being rendered have deteriorated simply because of that limited funding. The other challenge that I also have is when it comes to the support that we give them. Like I said, that one of the support that we give is providing the reading materials. Now, we have not had a budget to be able to purchase the locally published materials, and therefore these materials that we give the general public are ideally donor funded. Yes, we acquire them based on our user needs, because we submit our user needs and then these materials are given to us in areas where we have specified. And one of our major donor is called Book Aid International. And it is not only we, but even to the whole Uganda. Because even when you go to academic institutions, universities, education institution, you are going to find these materials. Because the National Library and the Kyambogo University Library are the partners, and therefore when we receive, Kyambogo distributes to education institutions and also will distribute to local governments, public and community libraries. Way forward. Maybe the other challenge that I can say is that, like I said, the Legal Deposits Act, we have the National Library Act, we have the Information Act. So there are many regulations, laws, legal frameworks governing library services and information access in the country. But one of the challenges is that many of these are working in isolation, and therefore it becomes a very big challenge. Now, as a way forward, we are trying to see how we can work in a coordinated manner as far as information provision in the country is concerned. Right now, we are doing a regulatory impact assessment on libraries so that we are able to determine what is the best option. Because, you know, as government, there are, I think, about 14 different options that we can take if you have to solve a problem. One of them being a living status quo. Let things run as they are, whether you have problems or what. The other one is coordination and like. Another one is the new regulations, laws, policies, and so on. So that's why we are doing this regulatory impact assessment and see whether to find out the best option. It could be a policy, because if you have the Uganda National Policy for Libraries, then that will help us to work in that coordinated way. And two, of course, we are continuing to engage development partners. We have quite a number of development partners that are helping us, that are helping to supplement what the government is doing as far as the library provision is concerned. And like I've said, some of these are national, UCC, because UCC is also a government body. Is also a government body that we are engaging with. And now in engaging them, we are trying to, you know, we are moving from that traditional way of offering services to the digital era, because we cannot run away from it. So right now, what is being done is that we are establishing what we call open access centers in communities, in the public libraries, in the community libraries, in the local governments. And this is with support from UCC. And as I talk now, we have about 20 libraries that have been connected. And this arrangement comes with giving 10 computers fully connected to the internet. We have Airtel Uganda, which we help us to give us this free internet, because as you know, that internet is also a very big challenge. Then Book Aid International, that helps us in training, reading, promotion activities. book donation. Then we also have electronic information for libraries, AFIL, that is helping us in digital literacy to the communities. Now, because we are a public institution, what are the requirements for someone to access these libraries? There is no limitation. Everybody is welcome, whether you are a child, whether you are out of school, whether you are old. And so the library is open as long as you can identify and you work within the restrictions. You know that now we have the SOPs, so we tend to follow those ones. So that's all you need, and we are open from Monday to Friday. Before the COVID-19, we used to open Monday to Friday, 9 to 4, and then weekends up to lunchtime. But now, because of those restrictions, SOPs, working shifts, and so on, we work up to Friday. Appeal to government, to our stakeholders, and to the general public. Because what we have in stock is not for us. Because information is not called so unless it is accessed. And unless it is used and made good out of it. So we urge the public to come and visit us. You can visit us on the website and then be able to access this and then become informed, become literate. That way, at least you shall be there. Then also on the government, yes, when I say appeal to government, I'm part of government, but of course in terms of administrative purposes, one is, the one appeal is National Library of Uganda getting its own home. Maybe I should have said that government had provided some time back land for the construction of the National Library building in Nakawa Naguru estate. But then, of course, we may be knowing what happened, the change of the project and so on. So we are trying to repossess that land and then see how we can be able to establish and a national library that is built to the purpose for which it's supposed to. So the issue of funding is also another appeal that the National Library, the public libraries need adequate funding if we are to be able to effectively perform our functions. And the stakeholders, particularly the donor partners, I just want to say we are very grateful for the support you have given us, because we are what we are because partly to a large extent because of your support. So we just call upon you, at least continue extending that support to keep engaging ourselves with you, so that we can see how best we can ensure that the library services in the country are better. My thanks goes to the central government, of course, for the continued support they have given us, and to UBC for having given us this opportunity to be able to inform the public of the journey of what we are going through, and what we have in stock for you. And then, of course, to our partners for that continued commitment, that continued partnership, because there is what they call now, whether you are a developed country or a developing country, there is what we call ABC, asset-based community development. We cannot develop unless we try to use the assets that are around, because no one can be perfect, no one can have whatever it takes. Even if you are an individual, you need the support of others, and therefore that's why we are trying always to engage these development partners, both national, regional, and internationally. And actually, one of the other partners I had forgotten is AFRIA, African Library Information Association. These ones have helped us develop the capacity of our public librarians, even our national librarians. Contacts in terms of where we are located. I said we are located on Uganda Road, opposite Uganda Road Primary School on plot 50. and the box number is 4262 Kampala. Our website is www.nlu.go.ug, and then our email is admin@nlu.go.ug. All this information is available on our website. Kindly visit, kindly read and see what we can offer, including that standard I was talking about, the ISBN. Because actually one of the things that we have is that we are having many publications published when they are not standard. There is what we call ISBN, the one I mentioned. So before you publish your publication, if you want to benefit out of it, see that it has that number. Once again, many thanks to UBC for this opportunity, and we look forward to having such interactions in the future. I thank you.
In all its operations worldwide, TotalEnergies considers national content a key component for the success of its operations.
Over 94% of the overall workforce are Ugandans, and we continue to recruit and mobilize more and more. Around 8,000 Ugandan nationals will directly contribute to Tilenga project only. More than $700 million is expected to be really spent in Uganda for these local goods and services. Already more than 160 Ugandan companies directly involved in our project.
This strategy was developed in line with the national content regulations of Uganda.
As PAU, we would like to recognize TotalEnergies, E&P, for their efforts in employing, training, and skilling Ugandans.
TotalEnergies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
I am Miriam Matembe. The last 2 years of lockdown of this COVID pandemic has done so much to reveal about gender inequalities, how they were translated now effectively and in reality in the increasing levels of gender-based violence. It has affected girls of 14, 13 years to be defiled, to be raped by uncles, by cousins, by fathers. It has been so traumatizing and painful. Leaders in their own communities, I'm really appealing to you to come forward and join hands so that we redeem their lives and restore the lives of these young girls, that they can live with hope. Young girls who found yourself in this situation, please forget the past that has happened and focus on your future.
COVID-19 is still here with us. As Sheikh Ramadan Muwajjeh, the Mufti of Uganda, states, let us all take the necessary precautions.
Prevention is always better than cure. Let's not go for prayers in mosques